Schopenhauer's writings, beyond his main philosophical work, The World as Will and Representation, are full of psychological reflections. One of them deals with people who are easily offended. Confirmation of this sensitivity, according to him, is in Greek subjectivity, a feature in humanity. Here, subjective refers to the inability to see beyond one's own perspective and experiences, making it difficult to adopt a broader point of view. For Schopenhauer, intelligent individuals will always face challenges when dealing with the common man. This is because the larger the width, more objective and comprehensive becomes the worldview. Already the common man, devoid of this intellectual capacity, projects your personality over everything around you, interpreting anything as a direct reflection of yourself. As a result, when everything becomes personal, anything can be offensive. In one of your sarcastic comments, Schopenhauer notes that any minimum disturbance in the vanity of certain people, no matter how subtle it may be, can make them absurdly painful. Another reflection of this excessive subjectivity is one egocentrism in dialogue. Any subject addressed needs, somehow, connect to your personal experience. Just one comment appears, and your attention is tied to the slightest reference you can. Directly or indirectly, involves thee. It prevents you from seeing with objectivity. If the conversation deviates into another topic, your mind soon closes. This trend also explains why superficial chat, predominantly subjective bias, hinders philosophical discussions, metaphysically or intellectually more demanding. But ironically, this lack of objectivity does not mean lack of interest. People like that can be by certain themes, as long as they can bring them to their own reality. An example of this, second Schopenhauer, it's astrology. That illustrates this egocentric tendency. Instead of contemplating the celestial bodies as something grandiose and distant, the individual reduces them to an of his own life. One comet, for example, is not seen as one astronomical phenomenon, but as one omen of disputes or earthly misfortunes. But not everything is negative. This inclination to self-centeredness makes these people easily influential. Schopenhauer observed that they can be won by praise. Since your opinions are not based on rational and objective criteria, but in subjective perceptions, it defines not only your conversations, but your worldview. Those immersed in this personal perspective tend to be offended easily, and having difficulty valuing concentration and deep thinking. This leads us to one of the big shoppings, how to make noise. Although he was not recognized during his lifetime for his masterpiece, The World as Will and Representation, he persisted writing. Decades later, his philosophy began to gain ground, and one of his minor essays on noise became known for expressing your version of the noise. For Schopenhauer, noise was a thought killer. He compares interrupting reasoning, the fragmentation of a diamond, or the dispersion of an army. Both destroy your strength. Likewise, a brilliant mind loses its power when it is distracted, because your advantage is to focus all your energy at one point, just as a concave mirror concentrates light. Noise destroys this ability. In every world, increasingly and full of, oxygen becomes essential. Following his vision of society, Schopenhauer advised people to be reserved about your private life. For him, you never know when a friend might become an enemy. His rule was simple: never reveal more than anyone can see for themselves. This is also how the art of thinking before speaking is practiced, a skill he valued and summed up in a maxim: between what we think and what we say, there must always be a big space. The first Hauer shopping board is to avoid speaking alone aloud. The relief extroverted people feel from doing this should not be encouraged, because it can become a habit. Like this, thought would become biologically linked to speech. And talk if would turn it into an act of thinking out loud. In addition, avoid this custom prevents you from revealing without wanting too much information about yourself. Often, we mention something for accreditation that others have already noticed our insecurities, when in reality, no one had noticed. The attention we give to our faults makes us assume that they are obvious to everyone, leading us to the mistake of making them in a conversation. However, those who hear us would probably never have thought of them. Training stops the avoid situations like this. Another benefit of shutting up is to prevent exposure of compromising details. Schopenhauer was alert about the trend of people to pick up a small suit and create an entire narrative from it. So, when reporting one distant event, care is taken not to reveal details that may indirectly point to something specific. As one place, one date or one relevant name. In Aphorisms for the Wisdom of Life, Schopenhauer deals with secrecy, and he advises you to consider all your private affairs like secrets and treats as if they were complete strangers, allowing them to know only what they can deduce on your own. Over time and under new circumstances, even information may end up becoming a burden. He doesn't mean friends, but there are casuals. In the future, these people may find reasons to harm you, and even a irrelevant detail, like the city where you were born or the destination of a trip years ago, can turn against you. Your advice on secret and defense was written centuries before the internet, but remains incredibly current. Schopenhauer reinforces that, as a general rule, audio is more advantageous than speech. Demonstrate harmony by means of oxygen is preferable, for it is born of. While speech carries a certain degree of vanity, opportunities for both occur frequently, but the momentary pleasure of speaking does not usually overcome the lasting advantage. Do nothing. So whenever you are in front of these two options, remember to talking brings short-term benefits, but silence guarantees permanent gains. Personally, I've regretted the times I said that on occasions when he remained in detention. But of course, your experience may be different. Schopenhauer observes that extroverted people feel great relief when talking to yourself, but warns that this habit should not be fed, as it can become one standard. When it happens, thought intertwines excessively with speech, leading the person to think out loud. Even in casual interactions, this results in revelations that should have been protected by. Ideal, according to him, is to keep the chasm between what we think and what we say, connecting them just intentionally. He still forgets that sometimes we believe that others don't trust something true we claim about us, when in reality, had not even considered doubting. However, by demonstrating insecurity about our own statement, we generated doubts where there were none. If we give someone the slightest reason to question, that which before did not even cross your mind suddenly becomes impossible to believe. They pass on accepting without question to doubt completely. Just because doubt was planted in your mind, it's like a cut on the hand that doesn't hurt until you see it. Suddenly, to look, the pain intensifies. For some people, space and doubt operate in this way. Schopenhauer follows it. Logic often, we reveal something just because we assume that others have already noticed. Just like someone who, taken by the dread, is thrown from one great height because he feels he can't hold on anymore. The torment of the situation becomes unbearable, and the only way out seems to be the immediate end. This irrational impulse is known as acrophobia, the fear of heights, and arises from vertigo when looking down. Pascal illustrates something similar. A person can be safe, but when you see the height and narrowness of the edge, feels at risk. Some do not tolerate this contradiction between perception and reality and simply launch themselves into the void. The same goes for secrets and truths. Sometimes we betray to reveal them, able to conceive that others don't know them. Like this, we ourselves draw attention to what we want to hide, awakening the interest of others. Schopenhauer advert, never underestimate people's cunning in matters that do not concern them, no matter how silly they are in others. In other words, people are nosy and highly skilled at this. Of them a single detail, and they will decipher everything else. If you want to narrate something from the past without exposing anyone, be careful not to include dates, locations, or names, as these fragments will serve as a clue. One time you have one starting point, your curiosity will be coming, boosting your intelligence to unravel to the most distant details. They can ignore universal truths, but are passionate about concrete information. In the digital age, this became even more evident. Today, someone can find out the exact location of a person just by a photo on social media. Schopenhauer, in the 19th century, already predicted this. Provide a single detail, and people will act like hounds in a tribe. When trying to impress, we must remember that the more we talk, we have less control of the situation. The risk of saying something silly increases with every word. One old popular observation reminds us, oysters part on the full moon, and the crabs throw stones to prevent those of dating, making prey easy. In the same way, those who talk too much become vulnerable. First Viscounts, who lived at the court of Louis Chief among 1673 and 1681, noted, "The king keeps state affairs in absolute secrecy. Only your ministers participate of board meetings. He shares his plans only after know at length and make a final decision. Your expression is your eyes astute as a fox's. Never debate state issues, except with your ministers. When interacting with courtesan, limits itself to mentioning its duties and privileges." Louis Chief was economical in words. Your most iconic phrase, "Let us see Moa. The state is me," was both brief and powerful. Your famous "I will see" was one of several short answers used in any situation. It wasn't always like this. In youth, was talkative and enjoyed his own eloquence. His mature companion was a strategic mask, leaving everyone around you bewildered. Nobody knew what he thought or wanted, making it impossible to manipulate it with smears. When he heard more than he spoke, he led his courtiers to expose themselves, providing you with valuable information, which he used later with magnetic precision. When we talk less than necessary, we inevitably seem moretic and powerful. Human beings seek meaning in everything, trying to decipher hidden intentions. By carefully controlling what we reveal, we prevent them from guessing our thoughts and goals. This mystery generates respect and, often, fear. The student can teach valuable lessons. Once said, words cannot be undone. We must learn to curb them and avoid sarcasm, for the momentary pleasure of a sharp irony never compensates for the consequences. Sometimes, a scathing joke can seal the way others see us forever, closing doors that will never open again. Socrates used cunning questions to make your interlocutors reveal themselves without needing to talk much. Its famous Socratic irony consisted of questioning with apparent naivety, causing others to resist and often to contradict themselves. He mastered what he said. Even more, what did I fail to say? Generating dynamism in their dialogues. This allowed him to guide the conversations without directly imposing your point of view. An interesting parallel is Sun Tzu, the legendary Chinese strategist and author of The Art of War. He highlighted the value of the description and stealth in military leadership. For Sun Tzu, dynamism and ambiguity were strategic weapons. Get control while the enemy remained uned. He advised, mule disorder and capture the, and if you are safe, Prepare for vulnerability. If you are vulnerable, prepare for safety. However, it is essential to understand that learning is not always the best choice. In certain situations, it can generate distrust and insecurity, especially in the face of superiors. Talk less than necessary is an art that requires and must be applied at the right time. As Arthur Schopenhauer teaches us, noise tortures the intellect, but the universe is your refuge.